Hello everyone, FPL Raptor here, and welcome back to another video on my YouTube channel. In today's video, we have my Game Week 14 transfer plans. I've got 2 free transfers, lots of places where my team probably needs them, and I'm on the back of a few red arrows. So let's discuss how I'm going to change that positive attitude moving forward. If you're enjoying the content here on this channel, please do remember to like, comment, and subscribe. But without further ado, let's jump into it. So on your screen, you can see my Game Week 13 performance. 29 points, gone from 500k to 1.1 million. I don't think there's much use in me going through all of the players and trying to claim I was unlucky or trying to explain why they blanked, because I don't think that's necessarily overly important. What I actually wanted to do in this section before moving ahead and looking at Game Week 14 is just talk about kind of my approach to FPL at the moment, because you can see via my rank that I am struggling at the moment. I mean, I've had a really tough start to the season. In Game Week 7 or 8, I was 3.4 million. I then had a really good few weeks off the back of my Game Week 8 wildcard. And then the last few, I've struggled. So really, I've only had like 3 or 4 good game weeks this season. And I'll be honest, I'm struggling with my enjoyment around FPL. I'm not struggling to record the videos because I always love doing that. But I think my approach to FPL has been wrong lately, and I want to try and fix that, because I think what is happening, and I think I would advise you to try and avoid this wherever possible, I'm tying my enjoyment of FPL far too tightly to my performance. And yes, if you get a green arrow, you're happy. If you get a red arrow, I'm not expecting you to be buzzing about that. But I think FPL is such a game of luck. FPL is largely out of our control. You put together the team that you want for that game week, and you hope, fingers crossed, that it does well. Sometimes you can put out the perfect team on paper, and it does terribly. So there is a large amount that is out of our control. And I think when your enjoyment of the game is purely revolving around whether you do well or not points-wise, I think that's when you're starting to play the game wrong, because you won't get a green arrow every week, which means you are confirming that in at least like 10 to 15 weekends per season, you're not going to enjoy a game that you're spending all of your time on. And recently, I've only enjoyed the game weeks I've got green arrows, and I've not enjoyed the ones I've got red arrows. And again, I know there is going to be a large amount of that regardless, but I want to start enjoying the process again, and I want to view this as the challenge that it is. I've not had a start to a season like this before. I am making some very bad decisions. Haaland, the experiment which we'll talk about in a second, it hasn't gone overly well, which is absolutely fine. It was an experiment that was worth making. You guys have seen it. I've documented every single decision I've made, and I've explained that to you guys. So yes, there have been some bad decisions. There has been a hell of a lot of bad luck as well. I will definitely admit that part, but I'm not saying this is all down to luck, my start to the season, but I want to view it as a challenge. I want to still enjoy the process of researching players and making decisions, because I feel like I've lost that a bit recently just because I'm struggling. And to be honest, this channel, I don't want you to think of me as some sort of perfect person or manager. I struggle with my mental health around Fantasy Premier League. I struggle with making poor decisions. I struggle when I get red arrows. And I want to show you that even content creators that have been playing this game a while and put loads of hours in, we're just like you in that way. So moving forward, yes, I would love some green arrows, and I'm sure if I get 3 or 4 green arrows in a row, all of a sudden I'll love FPL again. But I also want to start enjoying the little things in and around that, and I want to try and find joy in and around the performance and not just tie it down to, do I get a green or do I get a red? I do want to discuss Haaland, because obviously it's the major thing that I get in all of my comments, and I love the banter from most of you guys, right? It is funny. I am struggling at the moment because Haaland is battering me most weeks. And I guess for you guys, you send one comment and it's something funny about Haaland. And to be honest, each comment is probably funny, but you have to remember, you're sending one comment. But if I've got over 150,000 people following me on Twitter, you can imagine the amount of comments that I get around that. And it is kind of tedious, but I know that I brought this on by going without him. But I guess what I wanted to do with the Haaland experiment is, number one, I genuinely thought, and it still could maybe pay off. And I think people don't realise, like, my Haaland draft would have definitely been doing better than my non-Haaland draft. That is obviously clear to see now. But my non-Haaland draft has done very well. And for 3 or 4 weeks, it did work out very well. But since then, Haaland has found a lot of form. And obviously, I don't have an easy route back to him, because I planned on bringing him back in 16. So no, it hasn't been overly successful, but I guess I wanted people to see it as, you don't have to always do the template thing, because what you will see from myself included and all of the other content creators is, it's very, very template, and it's very, very boring. And the reason for that, if you scroll through my comments on Twitter, Instagram, whatever it is, YouTube, you'll see why content creators are boring. Because when we try and do something different and it doesn't pay off, we get absolutely battered. And you know what? Fair play. Like, I'm putting myself out there. I expect that. But I guess I was hoping that more people would see it as well done for trying something different. Well done for trying to not beat the template, but just show that there isn't only one way to play this game. And I was hoping that, number one, it would be rewarded. But even if it wasn't rewarded with points, it would be rewarded in the sense that it would encourage people to try some different stuff in the future. But yeah, all of the decisions that I make at the moment to try and go against the curve and just do something a little bit exciting, not to be different just for the sake of it, but just to do something different, which I also think will result in some points. It's just not going my way at the moment. So Haaland obviously is battering my rank at the moment. Martinelli was a risk that, yes, the data didn't support it, but I back his historical data. I think he's a great player. He's really struggled. Reece James, I know wasn't a great decision this week, but not many teams kept clean sheets. Was it like we've had like 2 clean sheets this game week? So yes, James conceding 4, that was always likely to happen. Newcastle were fantastic at home, but the red card and conceding 4, I mean, -3 points, no one saw that coming. Cash didn't even do very well that I sold. So I guess I'm just saying that I'm a bit beat up by FPL at the moment. I'm not trying different things for the sake of it. I am still making decisions which I think are paying off. But of course, the outcome isn't going my way at the moment. And on top of that, I am making decisions which a lot of the time maybe aren't optimal on paper. And maybe I just need to simplify it a little bit more moving forward. But I just wanted to finish this by saying I am still optimistic and positive about FPL, but I have struggled in recent weeks. And I want to be completely transparent with you guys and not just put on a fake smile and just say, I love FPL at the moment. I love being 1.1 million. Of course I don't. I love this game so much. And I take such pride in the advice I give in this channel that I want to do well as well. But the thing that I wanted to finish by saying is I am so proud of my content this year that is the one saving grace for me. That I look back at the videos that we've made, the live streams, the chats that I've had with you guys, and I'm over the moon with how it's gone. So I still feel like I'm giving good advice, which at the end of the day, I would rather give good advice and finish poorly than finish well and give poor advice, because to me, the content creation aspect is the most important, and entertaining you as well. Even if I don't give great advice sometimes, hopefully it's still entertaining sitting there and watching my videos across the season. So I know this first section has been longer than normal and also not really reviewing Game Week 13 because, to be honest, I don't really want to talk about it. But just to say kind of, yeah, I've had a bad season so far. I've made some bad decisions. Haaland will be coming back in soon, but that's not the only issue here. And also, I just hope that some of the decisions this season have at least been entertaining, even if they haven't paid off. And moving forward, we're going to be positive. We're going to find joy in things outside of just red arrow versus green arrow. And well, hopefully we are going to start performing well as well. And maybe this will be the turning point with the positive attitude moving forward. So let's start taking a look ahead to Game Week 14. Right, guys, don't skip this section because this is a project I've wanted to talk to you about for a while now and something I'm incredibly excited by. I want to talk to you about One Future Football, the world's first global virtual football league with AI teams where you can own parts of the club and AI athletes where you can actually control their training and their output. They've essentially built their own AI universe, and within it, each team has their own backstory, each team has their own narrative, and the teams perform purely based on AI. And you can actually even watch highlights from every single game with perfect commentary and incredible gameplay. I mean, it's one of the most impressive things I've actually seen in recent years. But guys, what I actually wanted to share with you in particular was within their virtual league, they actually have a fantasy game for the AI athletes and the AI teams. They have a free mode and a pro mode where you enter 5 players that you think will get the highest rating in that round, which is basically their game week. And if you finish in the top 5 in either the free or the pro mode, you do get the chance to earn different things. And you can actually earn money and also the kits. You can actually see me wearing a kit at the moment that I won by placing second in the pro mode. And actually, across the last month, I have earned over $300. That is no word of a lie, through winning and coming second and third in the free and the pro league. I've been winning money, winning kits, and also doing well within the game as well. I wanted to just show you my selection for round 12. The deadline is on the 1st of December. So what I would like you to do is go and enter your team. Let me know which 5 players you pick. A little tip: I've got the Inter Nusantara kit on right now. I love Butkus, who I have given the captain, but I think one of the better players to pick this week is either Sabate or Florian Grava. But pick the 5 players that you think will get the best points. You can click on them, find out their ratings, and I would love to know which 5 players you pick down below in the comments. This project is comfortably one of the coolest things I've seen in the football scene for a long time, and it's something that I was playing and enjoying before I was even contacted by One Future Football for this video. So you can tell it's something I've been excited by. I am absolutely obsessed with it. So I urge you to give it a go and get stuck into this AI universe. There are so many levels to this game, but I am loving it more than anything I've played in a very, very long time. So do give it a go. There is a link down below in the description. It's completely free to sign up. Have a go at the free fantasy version. If you do want to buy anything on the site, whether that be a kit such as this or some player packs, you can get 10% off using the code RAPTOR10. There is a link in the description, but first of all, just give the game a go. I guarantee if you give it a go and get involved with it, you will enjoy it. And if you do download the game, send me a message on Twitter, email me, Instagram, whatever it is. I love talking about One Future Football. I'm really enjoying it, and I would love to know what you think as well. So guys, in this section, we're just going to discuss some of the things that I noticed in Game Week 13, which maybe confirmed or refuted some of the things we already thought around FPL, and how this might impact our thinking from Game Week 14 and beyond. I won't be discussing every single team here and every single point, but these are some of the key things and early thoughts that I have ahead of Game Week 14. And the first is that Man City are just not the same from an attacking perspective this season, and they've always opted for control, right? That is the way that Pep likes to play the game. We've heard him in multiple interviews say that he doesn't like having a lack of control, and this is one of the key things that allow success for his teams, is exerting control over the game. And we've seen his understudy Arteta replicate this at Arsenal recently, which we'll discuss in a second. But I think even more so this season, they're kind of like 6th or 7th for non-penalty expected goals. They are not putting teams to the sword. They're not going for the jugular. They are happy creating less chances this season and hoping that that man Erling Haaland finishes them, and he will continue to. And I don't think this massively hurts City. As long as they sharpen up a little bit defensively and Haaland continues to convert, they don't need to win games 5, 6, 7-0, and they don't seem to want to do that at the moment. I don't know if it's due to the injuries and Pep not wanting to completely exert his team, but they just seem to be happy to not create the number of chances they have in the past. And whilst I don't think that affects Haaland, because his data has been fantastic this season, anyone that isn't Haaland in that attack is struggling. Alvarez's data is okay. Foden's data is so poor this season. Doku's looked very sharp, but his data isn't that great. No one in that team other than Haaland is getting a decent number of chances. And what this tells me is that until De Bruyne is back, and maybe that will change Man City, they aren't really an attack that I want to invest in. I've got Alvarez in my team. I'm looking at maybe moving him on. And even with their potential double in 20 and the nice fixtures coming up from 16 onwards, I'm not sure I'm overly interested in any City attackers outside of Haaland unless they start to change the way that they're playing and start to try and create more chances and score more goals. And I don't think that I wouldn't say that they are like ineffectively creating chances. They're not even trying to at points. Like you can see, they are in positions to go for the jugular and score, and they're just passing it around, and they just have such control over a lot of games. But from an FPL perspective, we don't want that. We want them to score as many goals as possible. So Haaland is still a great option, of course, but outside of that, I'm not overly interested at the moment, and I need to see a bit of a change from Man City. The next point is around Heung-min Son. I'm absolutely fine with him. What I wanted to see in this game against Villa is Son getting chances. Obviously, as my captain, I would have loved him to actually get some returns, but he scored like 3 offside goals. He missed a sitter. He created at least 2 or 3 chances in that game as well. He still was involved in a hell of a lot, and Spurs still created enough that makes me think that moving forward, I am still happy to have Heung-min Son. He's still on pens. He's still a 90-minute man. He's still an excellent finisher. And we saw that with him finishing a lot of the offside chances. Yes, he missed a sitter as well. But from that game, I'm feeling incredibly positive about Heung-min Son. I didn't watch that game and think, oh, I don't want to own Heung-min Son anymore. I actually thought the opposite. So my take home from that is I'm happy to keep Son. And I still feel like based on that, he'll probably still get a lot of chances moving forward. I'd love to know what your opinion of that Son performance was down below. I think it was a largely positive one. Anthony Gordon is unbelievable at home, right? I've got it up here. He hasn't blanked in a single home game this season. And he's actually got multiple returns in 2 of those games. And interestingly, he's blanked in every away game this season, apart from the 8-0 against Sheffield United away, when obviously he got 2 returns. So Anthony Gordon is a beast at home, and he struggles away. And I was actually looking at the data, 0.11 XGI against Bournemouth. I know Bournemouth put in a brilliant performance, but interesting. 0.11 against Wolves. I mean, he hasn't even performed particularly well away from home. So, I mean, we're getting to a point now when we're this far into the season. These are trends. And Anthony Gordon and Newcastle being so much better at home means that if you can get Gordon into your team and you've got a nice rotation and he has a fixture away from home, I'd feel much happier benching him. At home, I mean, he is incredible. It doesn't matter who the opposition is. So what this tells me is Gordon is a fantastic asset, but there seems to be a bit of a trend into when he delivers versus when he blanks. And at home, him and Newcastle have been so, so good. So I still like Anthony Gordon as an option. I wouldn't be selling him anytime soon if you already own him. Next one, Arsenal defence is unbelievable. And we knew this going into Game Week 13, and they just confirmed it because Brentford are so good when they're at home. But it doesn't, like, Arsenal are conceding no chances. They've got some of the best defensive data that we've seen in recent years in the Premier League. And I think what Arsenal are doing is what City are doing. Right, Arsenal are just exerting such control over the games that they're not creating as many chances from an attacking perspective. The likes of Martinelli, even Saka, they aren't fantastic options at the moment because they are not getting the chances to create or to score, but they are just exerting the most ridiculous amount of control over the games. And it's meaning that they just don't concede many chances. So at the moment, I genuinely believe a double up on the Arsenal defence is probably the best moving forward. You could even justify a triple up. They are that good. The fixtures are that good. And I think the attackers are struggling that much that a triple up on the Arsenal defence wouldn't be the end of the world. But definitely, it's a place that I am missing in my team. An Arsenal defender, at least one, feels like a bit of a must moving forward. I've said here, Sheffield United are the team to target. I think they are the worst team in the league. And it's not just based on like league position. I know Burnley and Luton haven't been great at points, but when I watch the games, when I look at the data, Sheffield United are just so poor defensively. They concede chances to absolutely everyone. So they, for me, are still the team to target. I've said here, absolute unpredictability with Chelsea. We don't know if they're going to win, lose, score 4, concede 4. The data suggests that they are a very good defence and a pretty decent attack, but the data's just, like, I just don't know what to think. When I go into games, I'm not sure what is going to happen with them. And it's not just due to that red card. That was such a chaotic game. Their last 3 games have been absolutely manic. So I kind of want it to settle down for a bit with Chelsea first before I decide what I want to do with their assets. Do I want to go more for the defence? Do I want to go more for the attack? Do I want to avoid them altogether? I still feel like one Chelsea defender plus Palmer moving forward is probably a good shout. I don't mind Raheem Sterling, but I still think Palmer's the better one if you're looking at the data. But yeah, I need things to settle down a bit with Chelsea because I don't know how to view them moving forward. I said here, Luton are a different team, home versus away. We spoke about Newcastle being much better at home and Gordon. Luton are really poor away from home. They're the worst defence in the league away from home. But at home, they're a pretty decent defence. Well, I mean, we're not talking like top 10, but we are saying like they're a kind of a mid-table defence. So when you're looking at fixtures and you're saying, oh, that team's got Luton coming up, are they playing Luton at home or Luton away? Because if they're playing Luton away, as we saw with Crystal Palace this weekend, I don't think it's an amazing fixture. That isn't to say I would avoid a player that's playing against Luton away. Of course, it's still fine, but it's not the same as a Sheffield United at home or a Luton at home or a Burnley away or at home. It is a fixture that is just an okay one, a middling one. And I think this is very interesting. I will, at some point in the next week or two, look at the home and away data for each team and trying to put it in together in like a graphic or a graph, because some teams are so different at home and so different away. And I think that is important when it comes into our decision making. When we look at fixtures, a set of 4 fixtures will be very different if you're playing those teams at home or playing those teams away. And these are some of the things that I think might help us in the coming weeks when we're deciding which players to target. I've said here, Areola has to go. West Ham are so bad defensively. They are still in the bottom 5 for expected goals conceded. Areola is just conceding goals every week. And I know there were only 2 clean sheets this week, and not many keepers are doing that well. But Areola in particular has been so stinky week upon week. So I think at some point, Areola to Raya, or maybe Turner to Sanchez might be the play, because Chelsea and Arsenal are both very good defensively. Arsenal are slightly better, but actually Areola and Sanchez have a great rotation. So I think I'll either do Areola to Raya or Turner to Sanchez at some point in the near future, just so that I don't have to play Areola every single week. And until we see the West Ham defence start to improve, I just want to get rid of him, or at least not have to rely on him every single week. And then I finally just said, are Manchester United starting to click? That's now 5 wins in the last 6 games. And yes, some of those have been unconvincing. And yes, the fixtures have been very easy outside of that Man City game. But the data's not terrible for them now. It is improving. And it's just starting to feel like a couple of things are starting to click with Manchester United. Martial being back is a massive improvement. It was interesting that Bruno gave Rashford the penalty in the Manchester United game. So I'm not sitting here saying that I want to suddenly bring in loads of Man United players. But I have got my eye on them. And I think especially defensively, they are starting to improve as well. 3 clean sheets in the last 3 games. Again, some of them are slightly lucky, but it's a team that I've got my eye on for sure. And speaking of Shaw, Luke Shaw would be a player that I would be very, very interested in. Dalot continues to perform well. So I think there are some options there. You could even go for a Harry Maguire still. Not something I'm interested in right now, but definitely one to monitor. So those are some of my key thoughts ahead of Game Week 14. I think one of the key things for me is home versus away. It's something that I really want to look into, both with players and with teams, because I think it's maybe something that we ignore too much. We just look and say they've got Sheffield United, they've got Luton, they've got West Ham, but some of these teams are so different at home and away. And some players, such as a Gordon, perform very differently home versus away. Bowen's another one. Bowen's been brilliant away this season and pretty poor at home. So I'm going to start looking into that. But with all of that being said, let's take a look at how my team looks, which isn't great for Game Week 14. So guys, looking ahead to Game Week 14, it's very, very difficult off the back of a bad few weeks, and especially a week as bad as what I've just had, to view your team in a logical and rational manner. So I'm definitely going to take a step back from my team for a few days before I make any decisions, because I look at a lot of the players and I hate them all. But then I also think I'm not too far off sort of the ideal team at the moment. And I know I don't have Haaland. I'm actually going to discuss in the next section how I plan on getting him back soon. But I think in weeks like this, it's very important. I mean, I've got 2 free transfers, nothing in the bank, but I need to prioritize. Where are the biggest issues in my team? Because yes, I could foresee myself needing 6, 7 changes to this team over the next 5 or 6 weeks, but I don't need to do them all now. So where are the positions which I think are the biggest issues in my team? I prioritize those and then I move for the other players at a later date. So Areola is not very good, but I don't think that's a priority transfer at the moment with nothing in the bank and some of the other issues I have in my team. So goalkeepers will be fine for this week. Defensively, believe it or not, I don't have many issues with the defence. I know Reece James is sat there. He's only suspended for 1 game because it was 2 bookings, and I actually still want him moving forward. Despite everything that's happened, I still want Reece James. So James is fine there. And actually, it's a good week to be suspended because I actually still have 4 pretty decent defenders. I've got Trippier, who you can play every week, Tsimikas against Fulham, Taylor against Sheffield United at home, which is arguably the best fixture you can get. And even if I don't trust the Burnley defence, I then have Gahey on the bench if I want to back the Palace defence. So I feel like I'm happy with those there. So I don't have an issue with my 5 defenders, but my major issue is Arsenal are comfortably the best defence in the league, and Saliba is just such a good option that will only continue to rise in price. I actually still think Gabriel is fine as well. So I'm wondering, I do love Trippier, and I do want to keep Trippier, but I'm wondering, for the sake of my team and for ease of getting Haaland back in, does Trippier to Saliba or Gabriel make sense next week? Either Game Week 14 or 15. The longer I leave it, though, Trippier's got great fixtures in 17, 18, 19. And I also like the fact that not many people have Trippier at the moment. So I'm a bit unsure on that one, but that is a key spot of my team where I am missing an Arsenal defender and I would like to bring one in. When I look at the midfield, I think there are 3 players I don't need to move out at the moment. Salah is still fantastic. Son, I saw enough against Aston Villa that I'm happy keeping him for now. And whilst Saka has been very disappointing, his data hasn't been great, and he has relied on penalties for goals this season, I don't think he's the biggest issue in my team. I know he's going to play. He is still ticking along with the odd assist here and there. And I do still feel like he's first choice for penalties. And he's still taking a lot of corners and free kicks. So Saka, whilst isn't perfect, I don't think he's the biggest issue. Then when we look at my forwards, I also don't think, for now anyway, Darwin or Watkins are issue. Great fixtures this week. Darwin is still getting the chances. He has finished enough this season to warrant a little bit more patience in my team. Ollie Watkins continues to be absolutely fantastic in return. So those 6, or those 5, I should say, Saka, Son, Salah, Darwin, Watkins, no issues. The 3 that I have issues with, I suppose, or could end up changing, is Alvarez, Bowen, and Martinelli. Bowen, I love still. If Bowen is fit, I want him. But if there are any doubts, do I just want to keep him in the hope that he eventually starts? Because we saw this with Botman for a few weeks. We've seen it with other players where managers are like, oh, they could feature, and they just never end up featuring. So unless we get confirmation that Bowen is going to be fit for Game Week 14, I will be selling Bowen. I'm not just going to keep him indefinitely in the hope that he eventually plays, especially because his fixtures only last so long. The good fixtures anyway. So if Bowen is unavailable, or if we don't get positive confirmation that he's fit, Bowen will be sold. But if not, he's not an issue in my team either. The 2 issues are Martinelli and Alvarez. They've both been very underwhelming in recent weeks. Martinelli in particular was a mistake. It was a 2-week punt, but the thing that makes me feel better is the other players that could have punted on were Eze, who is now injured and hasn't got that many returns, and then also Matoma, who proved to be an issue as well. So there were no players really that I were considering, or going for Mbermo early, which again hasn't resulted in many points. So I'm fine with the Martinelli punt. It wasn't the best move in the world. It is what it is. But moving forward, I don't really want Martinelli. I'm not overly impressed with Alvarez. So I guess the 2 biggest issues in my team are Martinelli and Alvarez, or maybe Bowen. The players that I'm missing, if we just move on to my watch list now, is I'm missing an Arsenal defender. That could be Gabriel, it could be Saliba. Obviously, Saliba is the better pick. There are other cheap defenders, such as a Pinnock, that I could go for, but really it's an Arsenal defender if I want to bring one in. Midfielders-wise, it's Mbeumo is the main one because he's got Luton at home in 14, which is such a great fixture. Genuine captaincy chat if you want to go there. And I want him in my team. So Mbeumo's the big one, but also Palmer moving forward. I still feel like he's just going to continue rising in price, and I do want him in my team. And I still feel like Kudus is a fine pick. Whether Bowen's fit or not, he's performing fairly well at the moment. But Palmer and Mbeumo are key. And of course, Erling Haaland is the big one that is missing from my team. So I feel like the next 4 transfers realistically should probably be Saliba, Palmer, Mbeumo and Haaland, and there may have to be another transfer such as Mubama or Archer in there to fund that. But those are the 4 sort of active players that I think my team are missing that I need to bring in. And I know this is moving my team closer and closer to the template, but I don't really care about the template. I just want to bring in the players that I think will be good moving forward. I need to move back to Haaland, and the likes of Palmer and Mbeumo feel like such great value that I probably need to bring them in. So it's, I guess, deciding in my team. Trippier isn't an issue, but the lack of Arsenal defence is. So do I move in that direction? People will say move out Reece James, but I want Reece James. I want a Chelsea defender. I still feel like he's great. He still created chances against Newcastle, so I want to keep him. So it really would be Trippier to an Arsenal defender. Do I want to move out Trippier? And if not, do I just focus the transfers on the attack? And do I need to make 1 or 2 this week? So let's jump over to Fantasy Football Hub. We'll look at my transfers for this week, next week, and going into 16, and look at how I plan on prioritising those transfers. So guys, let's just take a look at a possible sort of transfer route based on what I've just said about the players that I would like to bring in and how it might look bringing Haaland back in. This is one of genuinely about 6 or 7 possible routes. This one does involve a -4. There are ways that you can do it without taking the -4, but you maybe miss out on 1 or 2 key players. So this is probably, in my opinion, the best route at the moment. But this is the route that involves losing Kieran Trippier. And I am wondering if I'm just overly annoyed that he hasn't returned in recent weeks, and maybe the best option is still to keep him. I'd love to know, if you had my team and you've got the different routes back to Haaland, would you try and find a way to keep Trippier in the team, or do you think he is probably the one that makes the most sense to sell? I could just sell the attackers instead, which is absolutely fine to do, but then I'm losing the likes of, well, Watkins or a Son instead. So I think this route might make the most sense, but I'll show you what that looks like. So let's say that in Game Week 14, I want to keep Bowen. I've got him on the bench at the moment because let's say that I actually decide that Martinelli is an issue. I don't mind playing Alvarez, and actually I want to keep Bowen. If Bowen's fit, then of course Bowen will just come in for Alvarez and it'll be a 3-5-2. So what the transfers would be in this case is Mbeumo in for Martinelli, because I still think Martinelli's just not doing enough for me, and then Saliba in for Trippier. That leaves me 2.3 in the bank. So I don't really need that. Saliba has a better fixture this week than Trippier, and Mbeumo's got a better fixture this week than Martinelli. I think there are 2 upgrades, and they also start to give me some money in the bank. So 2 transfers. That would mean going into 15, I only have 1 free transfer. Now, I don't think I need to make a move this week unless anything crops up. The defense looks very, very good. Again, goalkeeper transfer isn't the priority at the moment. Midfield looks pretty strong for this week. And then I've got Darwin, Watkins, and Alvarez. If I want to play Watkins against Man City, I of course can. But I look at this, and again, this isn't a week where I think I desperately need to make a transfer. Which would mean, if no issues crop up, which of course they will, going into Game Week 16, I would have 2 free transfers. And the plan at the moment would be to get Haaland in 16. I know I've just said Luton aren't actually that bad at home, but it's still a fixture where I would want Haaland back from then moving onwards. So the plan at the moment is to sell Darwin and Alvarez and keep Watkins. But it is a lot easier if I sell Watkins and keep Alvarez. So if I see something from Alvarez in the next couple of weeks that makes me want to keep him, it makes my life a lot easier. But the transfers here would be Alvarez out for Mubama, Haaland in for Darwin, and then to fund that, I bring Palmer in for Bowen. Not a massive fan of selling Bowen. I could sell Son or Saka instead. But at the moment, I'm assuming that Saka continues to deliver. Son still looks good. And I think what is probably the best midfield 5 of Salah, Saka, Son, Mbeumo, and Palmer. That would be then a -4. So just to recap, Bowen, Alvarez, Darwin out, Haaland, Mubama to fund it, and then Palmer in. And yes, this moves me towards a team which a lot of people already have. Right, a lot of people will be sat there with a team that is almost similar to this, and it is what it is. It was one of the issues of going without Haaland, that it will take a few transfers to get back, and you might therefore be a few transfers behind. Still an experiment I'm happy I did, but I don't think that should put me off moving towards this kind of team. I would have then Palmer and James for the nice fixtures coming up. I would have a lot of penalty takers in my team, and it would allow me to keep Ollie Watkins for this nice spell here. If I do this, I'm in sort of a 50-50 between do I free hit in Game Week 18 or not. Because I would have Mbeumo, Haaland, and Mabama is the only 3 that blank. So I could just bench those 3. Obviously, Mabama could play, but unlikely. And then just play my remaining 11. But I am lacking Aston Villa players outside Watkins. I've got no Newcastle players who play Luton. So I am thinking still about the free hit in GAMEWEEK 18, but we'll kind of decide that across the next couple of weeks. This is only one possible plan to get Haaland back, right? There are multiple ways. If I keep Trippier, I can do it by then selling Watkins or selling Son, and then keeping the team relatively similar after that and just keep Alvarez instead. So I need to think about which players I want to hold moving forward. But for GameWeek 14, I don't think it really matters. I don't think my transfer plans massively change. The only thing that does change is, do I want to sell Trips? If I don't want to sell Trippier, I probably have to just accept that for the time being, I'm going to be without an Arsenal defender, which for Wolves at home and then Luton away feels like just more and more pain. So these are some of the things I'm thinking about. I'd love to know what you would do with my team moving forward. Of course, let me know what your plan is for GameWeek 14, and we'll have the usual content throughout the week. So guys, there we have it. That is my GameWeek 14 transfer plans. Hopefully you did enjoy today's video, and if you did, please make sure to smash that like button and make sure to subscribe as well. I'm trying to hit 110,000 subscribers before we enter 2024, so I'd really, really appreciate if you hit that subscribe button. Completely free for you to do, but massively does help me. Until next time, which will be my GameWeek preview video on Wednesday, thank you very much for watching. Cheers. Bye-bye.